SCYData is a tool for processing and visualizing numerical datasets. To help you organize and interpret your data in a meaningful way, here I am going to open an already prepared dataset from an experiment on how the thickness of the insulation material in a house affects the insulating capability. I have 3 columns of data. The leftmost column is the time intervals when the measurement took place, which was every 5 minutes. The middle column contains the measurements of degrees Celsius inside the simulated building, where the insulation was 10 centimeters thick. The column to the right contains the measurements where the insulation material was 15 centimeters thick. Double-clicking on the column headers gives you access to a number of features. Here you can give the column a meaningful name, specify the format of the data and the unit type, in addition to formulas for performing calculations on the data. The toolbar in the SCYData tool contains the following elements, from left to right. First, you can import datasets from your computer if they are stored in the correct format. The next icon is for adding rows or columns to your dataset. If you have clicked one of the headers, you will add another column, and if you click on one of the row headers, you add another row. The next button is for deleting columns or rows, and the elements that you have marked are deleted when clicking this icon. The 3 next icons are for justifying the contents of the cells in your dataset to the left, center and right, respectively. The following icon is for sorting the contents of the columns, with largest or smallest values to the top or bottom. The next icon lets you ignore the values of single cells in a dataset. For example, if you have a value that you suspect is incorrect. The 3 next icons are for cut, copy, and paste. The sigma icon adds the values of all the cells in a column and pastes the result in a new row at the bottom of your dataset. The following icons calculate the average, finds the lowest and the highest value, respectively. The 2 arrows are for undoing and redoing actions carried out by you. The final 3 icons are for turning your dataset into graphs, exporting the dataset as a CSV file, and for providing you with basic help in the SCYData tool. A graph is a visual way of observing your data. Let's create a new graph based on this dataset. Clicking the graph icon opens a new window where you will specify different parameters in your graph. First, you give it a name. You can choose to have the graph displayed as a scatter plot, a bar chart, or a pie chart. Next, you decide which data to display and on which axis. Here I am interested in a visualization of how the different thickness of the insulation material affected the material over time. So I will choose time as the x-axis and the thermal data depending on the insulation thickness as the y-axis I'm also interested in comparing the two different thicknesses, as the data originate from a simulation experiment and not measurements of a real house. So I will add a new plot to include the 15 centimeters thick insulation data as well. Click Add a new plot to include a graph for more data. Then click OK. The graph is produced in a new window within the tool. We see that the 15 centimeters insulation increases the insulating capability quite significantly, mostly in that a higher temperature is achieved, and an ability to retain the heat produced for a longer time. One of the values in the 10 centimeters graph looks out of place, so I will ignore this by finding the value in the dataset and click Ignore. The parameters of the graph can be altered. It is possible to move around in the graph, or to scale it, return to previously specified parameters, and finally to perform calculations on the data by adding functions. Predefined functions are available, and you can add your own. To save your work, click the Save button in the top of the window.